You've been told your entire life that eating fat makes you fat. That the moment food hits your stomach, insulin spikes, fat burning slams to a halt, and everything you just ate gets shuttled straight into storage. That's the standard nutrition textbook answer. And honestly, it's not completely wrong. But it's missing something big. Something that changes the entire conversation about fat loss. Because here's what nobody talks about. The type of fat you eat actually determines whether your body keeps burning fat after the meal, or whether it shifts into storage mode. Your metabolism isn't just counting calories like some boring accountant. It's reading the structure of what you feed it. And when you feed it olive oil, the response is radically different from what happens with most other fats. That's what we're getting into today. We're going to cover why different fats burn at completely different rates inside your body. Not all fat is created equal, and once you understand this, you'll never look at cooking oils the same way again. We'll talk about what actually happens to fat burning after you eat a meal, because this is where most people have it completely backwards. And we'll break down the specific enzyme-level mechanism that explains why olive oil pushes your metabolism toward burning fat instead of parking it in your love handles. Let's start with something that sounds like it shouldn't be true. Eating fat can increase fat oxidation. That means consuming fat can actually make your body burn more fat. Now, if you're sitting there thinking that makes zero sense, you're not alone. How does adding energy from fat increase the rate at which your body burns energy? How does that help anyone lose belly fat or drop visceral fat? The answer comes from a detailed scientific review published in a journal called Olives and Olive Oil in Health and Disease Prevention. Extremely niche publication. But the data inside it is genuinely eye-opening for anyone trying to understand how dietary fat actually works in the human body. What this review lays out is that not all fats share the same metabolic fate. The molecular structure of a fat molecule determines how easily your body can oxidize it. Oxidize just means burn for energy. And oleic acid, the primary fatty acid in olive oil, gets oxidized at a rate up to 14 times higher than saturated fats like stearic acid. 14 times. That's not a marginal difference. That's a completely different metabolic outcome from the same macronutrient category. It also burns significantly faster than palmitic acid, one of the most common saturated fats in the Western diet. You'll find palmitic acid in processed foods, conventional dairy, conventional meats, and basically anything that makes up the standard grocery store run. So why does oleic acid burn so much faster? It comes down to molecular architecture. The chain length of oleic acid, combined with its degree of unsaturation and double bond configuration, makes it far easier for your mitochondria to process. Your mitochondria are the energy factories inside every cell. They're the furnaces. And some fats slide right into those furnaces and get converted to usable energy almost immediately. Other fats kind of get stuck in the waiting room. They get parked, stored, tucked away in adipose tissue for later use that, for most people, never actually comes. Olive oil is one of the fats your body genuinely prefers to burn. Drop a comment below if you've been cooking with seed oils this whole time thinking fat is just fat, because the science says otherwise. Now here's where this gets really practical for anyone trying to lose weight. Fat oxidation doesn't just matter during the meal, it matters after the meal. And this is the part most nutrition advice completely ignores. That same scientific review references a study called The Effects of Palmitate and Oleate on the Respiratory Quotient During Acute Feeding. Not the catchiest title, but the findings are worth paying attention to. Researchers took non-obese, healthy subjects and split them into two dietary groups. One group ate a typical North American fat profile, roughly equal parts palmitic acid and oleic acid. Not terrible fats by any means, just a standard Western ratio. The other group ate a Mediterranean-style fat profile, much higher in oleic acid relative to palmitic acid. More olive oil, fewer saturated sources. They ran this experiment for 28 days. And throughout the study, they measured something called the respiratory quotient in the fed state, after the participants had eaten. The respiratory quotient is a metabolic marker that tells researchers exactly what fuel source the body is prioritizing. A higher number means more carbohydrate burning. A lower number means more fat burning. Here's what they found. The Mediterranean-style group, the ones eating more oleic acid, had a significantly lower respiratory quotient after meals. That means they were burning more fat even in the fed state, even after eating. Let that land for a second. Fat burning did not stop because they ate. It continued because of the specific type of fat they ate. This matters for anyone who spends most of their day in a fed state. And let's be honest, that's most people. Not everyone fasts. Not everyone spaces their meals out properly. Most people eat 3 meals a day, snack in between, and spend the vast majority of their waking hours in a fed, insulin-present state. If you have a fat source that keeps your body burning fat even during those fed windows, that's an enormous metabolic advantage. Now, whether you're fasting, cutting calories, or just trying to shift your diet in a more Mediterranean direction, one thing worth mentioning is electrolyte balance. When you're manipulating your eating patterns or adjusting your macros, your mineral balance tends to shift. Keeping sodium, potassium, and magnesium topped up helps with satiety and energy levels, something to keep in mind as you make these changes. But let's get into the actual mechanism behind all of this, because it's not magic, it's biochemistry, and once you see it, you'll understand why olive oil keeps showing up in longevity and metabolic health research. There's a key enzyme called stearoyl-CoA desaturase 1, or SCD1 for short. This enzyme is responsible for converting saturated fats into monounsaturated fats inside your body. Think of it as a fat remodeling tool. When SCD1 activity is high, your body is busy converting and storing fat. Higher SCD1 activity is directly associated with increased fat storage and decreased fat oxidation. Your body is building inventory instead of burning fuel. Now here's the important part. Research in animal models has shown that when SCD1 activity is reduced, fat oxidation increases. The body shifts from storage mode to burn mode. And oleic acid, the dominant fatty acid in olive oil, appears to downregulate SCD1 activity. It dials that enzyme down. So what's happening at the molecular level is this. Olive oil sends a signal to your metabolic machinery that says burn this fat instead of remodeling it for long-term storage. It's a fuel selection shift. Nobody is saying calories don't matter. They absolutely do. But this isn't about metabolic stress or some hack that lets you eat whatever you want. It's about giving your body better instructions, a better blueprint for what to do with the energy you feed it. And this is why olive oil's effect compounds over time. This isn't a one-meal trick. When olive oil is consumed consistently as part of your regular diet, you're not just burning the fat from that specific meal. You're nudging your entire post-meal metabolic environment toward fat oxidation. Day after day, meal after meal, your body starts defaulting to fat as its preferred fuel source. Fat loss becomes less about white-knuckling through restriction, and more about your metabolism automatically choosing the right fuel. So how do you actually apply this? Here's what to do with it. The type of fat matters far more than most people realize. Olive oil works not because it's low-calorie, it works because it's burned differently at the molecular level. Swapping your cooking oil isn't a minor tweak. It's a fundamental change to how your body processes energy from fat. Olive oil is especially powerful when consumed with meals. That's when post-meal fat oxidation makes the biggest difference. Don't just drizzle it on a salad once a week and expect results. Make it a consistent part of your meals. Use it for cooking. Use it for finishing dishes. Make it your default fat source. And think replacement, not addition. Olive oil delivers its best results when it replaces other fats that are more prone to storage. Seed oils, excess butter, processed fat sources. If you just pour olive oil on top of an already fat-heavy meal, you're adding calories without the metabolic shift. The goal is to swap the storage-prone fats out and swap olive oil in. One more thing worth knowing. There's something called the Randle cycle. When you eat high fat and high carbohydrates together, your body has to choose which fuel to prioritize, and insulin from the carbs tends to win that fight, pushing fat into storage regardless of the source. So on the meals where you're specifically increasing your olive oil intake, consider pulling the carbohydrates back a bit. You don't need to go full keto. Just lower the carb load on those meals to let the olive oil do its job without competing against a big insulin response. You want your body in fat usage mode, Olive oil helps get you there, but spiking insulin at the same time works against that shift. Keep the carbs moderate, let the oleic acid do what it does best, and your metabolism will start leaning in the right direction. Now, if olive oil can change what your body burns after you eat, the next question worth asking is, what happens when fat has already built up in places it shouldn't be? Specifically, the liver. Fatty liver is one of the fastest growing metabolic conditions in the world right now, and olive oil has some genuinely interesting effects on liver fat handling and insulin signaling that are worth understanding. If this changed how you think about fat, hit subscribe. We break down the stuff the mainstream health industry either gets wrong or won't tell you.